Welcome to the Political Orphans. My name is Nico Lagan, and I am your in-house conservative. To my left, Rob Ambrose, our token liberal. Our goal is simple. We want to show you that it's possible for a lefty and a righty to not only get along, but to be able to have a civil conversation when we disagree. Because never forget, common sense has no political affiliations. On today's show, we're speaking about the EU's proposed 90% carbon tax on their heavy industries and what it means for Canada. Our question of the day is simple. Considering the carbon tax cut the EU's proposing, what will Canada do? Will they follow suit, or will Mark Carney double down on his green agenda? Get your comments ready because the show starts now. Bam! One cut. Patow!
Nice. Good job.
How'd you like it?
It's good. Yeah, it was good. Went smooth. Just make sure you don't. So. Just make sure you don't strain your arm, patting yourself on the back there. But
bro, I use teleprompters all the time to keep track on my videos, so it is not a skill I had a year ago, but I've been doing it almost every day now. I dislike it with a passion. It looks fake when somebody's always reading off a teleprompter.
Are you reading something when you do that?
Like right now?
Yeah. When you do that. Oh, you reading? Okay, you're not just winging it. You're actually reading.
The intro, the welcome to the. I know by heart. I've been doing it for long enough. But no, on today's show is just I know where I'm going with this, so I don't read word for word. I just know where I'm going. But in case I'm forgetting, I can reread. I can read what's on the screen just before I say it. It's just it's a skill. It's
yeah, exactly, right. Yeah.
So what's going on, man?
Taking your victory lap.
Oh fuck! Jason's not there to fondle my balls. So.
Not too much. It's what's it like? Is it ridiculously hot there in Quebec as well? The way it is out in the East Coast.
No, man, it's like 20 degrees. It's the first day in about a week and a half that it's not. You're not sweating your balls off. Literally.
No, that's here. Your balls are sweated off. Wise guy, how's it going? Pam, good to see you. How's weather where you guys are? Is it nice? Is it hot? Let us know.
But I'll take hot any day of the week, man. I'll take hot. I'll take 40 degrees Celsius over minus 40.
Oh yeah. I agree. It's easier to keep cool when you're hot than it is to warm up when you're cold.
I'm hot all the time, so.
Hey,
exactly.
Pam says, Nico, your tweets are making the rounds on Telegram. Interesting. What tweets are those?
No, I have a lot of posts right now on Instagram that are going viral, so I'm not surprised that I have people retweet my shit, and I'm like, oh, kill. That's awesome.
Nice. Yeah, it's kind of funny.
You could tag me in it, fuckers.
Well, once in a while, we'll see on Twitter. We'll see someone cut a reel from our show, and it's really weird, right? He's like, I don't even know this guy. And he's literally just
love it.
Kind of cool, yeah.
It'll get a lot better. Wait, give it time. It will become normal. But I'm curious, Pam, who is it? Which one was it? Because I post a lot, right? So,
yeah, which tweet?
Let's see here before David Wolf. What? Really?
David Wolf is posting on his Instagram. Do you know that guy?
David Wolf is like probably has 1 million followers, if not more. The dude is fucking massive.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. He is massive. Like just his Instagram right now is like 437,000 followers. No, the dude has a massive audience, and he's a very healthy guy.
Well, do your thing. Try to get him on the show.
Fuck, yeah. Of course.
Yeah. That's your thing.
Yeah, it is. But that's cool though, because I actually like David Wolf. Like he's a magic mushroom guy. He's a mushroom guy. He's a very healthy people. Eats raw, like healthy person. Eats raw. So he's it doesn't show, but I've been in that space, like what he does for decades. Like personally, it's not something I approach because I'm no expert, but this is how I've been living my life for a long time. So it's it's humbling to have a guy like him that I followed for a long time.
Didn't you used to be vegan?
Shit. Yeah, man. I was vegan for
Yeah.
years. I was vegetarian for years, man.
Wow.
I was vegan for 5 years, and 8 years prior to that. For 13 years, I went from vegetarian to vegan. So whatever the split is. Yep. But I only started eating meat again about 1.5 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man. Oh, yeah. Since my whole 30s, I did not touch a piece of meat, of fish.
That's pretty interesting. Yep. What was it, a health thing, or like what was it for you?
Spiritual. It was spiritual. Okay. Like even to this day, I don't eat regular meat. Fair. Like the meat I eat is all how do you call it? Free range. Because I know how they're treated. Like I know how chickens are treated. I know how the cows are treated. So right now, all the meat that I eat is top notch. Like it's going to be top notch. No antibiotic, no crap in it. The animals were allowed to live a regular life until it was too late. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, my diet has completely changed, but I feel so much better, and I've gained so much muscle since then. It's a bit ridiculous, but yeah,
nice.
Yeah,
but yeah. Cool, I think
you should tag me in it. Tag me on this page. Tag me on this post. Is that something you're capable? I don't follow people on Telegram. Maybe we should start a Telegram channel, but
I don't even know what Telegram is. What is it?
It's a chat app that is secure, that doesn't belong to Meta. It belongs to a Russian guy that believes.
He just got arrested, didn't he?
Yeah, that's the same guy. So he got arrested because he did not want to provide, like, to undecrypt or to decrypt his application for the government. He said, "Yep, nope." So yeah, he's a cool dude. Like he's a cool dude. I like what he talks about. I don't know him, obviously, but. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm gonna message David Wolf right now, just to say he might never answer, but.
So what are we gonna jump in there with the show? What are we gonna start with?
Hey, give me 2 seconds. I'm literally gonna. I'm on his page right now. I'm sending him a message before I forget.
Pam says he doesn't have his chat enabled. Pam also says, I'm lucky to be surrounded by Hutterites, so I get healthy foods. What are Hutterites? Are they similar to Amish? I feel like they're
something along those lines, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think so. I feel like if you were, if you had to pick any neighbors in the world, I feel like Amish would be pretty sweet. Like if you ever need anything, right? Need help moving a barn or whatever, they're there.
But not only that, but they live extremely natural life. They don't take the medication that we take. Most of their foods is homegrown. Like they build their own shit. They take care of their own stuff.
I'm sensing a definite attitude shift towards the Amish just on social media. Like even a couple of years ago, I think they were seen as like weirdos and outsiders, and now people, I think, just I've seen a lot of really complimentary posts just about their lifestyle, and it seems like people are starting looking and be like, shit, maybe they're onto something.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the thing that creeps people out about groups like the Amish is the fact that they're heavy Christians, right? They do live their life as per their interpretation of the Bible, right? So they're very, very religious people, first and foremost. And I don't know if you've ever met some, but as I was traveling the US, I ran into them all the time. Holy shit, a guy like me, you should see the looks. Like I remember being in a store. I don't remember exactly. We're probably in West Virginia or something along those lines. And I'm at just a country store, super small store in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. And I'm literally shorts, flip-flop, wife beater. I'm covered in tats, right? You don't see right now, but covered in tattoos. And I'm just walking around looking for food as my wife is waiting in the truck with the dog. And we have the RV pin behind it. The women are just like, there's a group of like 4 or 5 Amish people. They're just like looking at me like, what the fuck? Like, who the fuck is that? But at the end of the day, they're very Christian, so that's probably what turns people off, right?
I mean, for me, I think what's weird is just the insular nature. I think any group that's like build a moat around themselves always is a little bit weird at first, but I mean, they definitely, they definitely have I feel like they've improved their reputation. Not that they give a shit about what the rest of us think about them anyways.
Yeah.
But I definitely, I don't really think of them as weird or creepy anymore. You kind of like, geez, maybe they're onto something.
Man, one of my dreams is to have a similar situation. Not necessarily like I don't want to build a society, for example, but one of my biggest dream is to own like 100 acres of land somewhere down south in the US, have a bunch of houses like family members and very close friends that can live on it, have a climate where you can grow your own food year round, where you're capable of hunting. So all 90% of your food comes from the ground or comes from you hunting, and then the rest you buy. I'm not saying I would not want to be disconnected from society, but just live in a, like almost a compound where it's private. People leave you alone, but you go in society whenever you feel like it. It's just that you have the space to be left alone and the space to grow your own stuff. Because I'm a big fan of growing my own food, hunting my own meat. Like I like to know where my stuff comes from, and you have people that you like, that you love, your families or other people that you get along with that can move there if you want. And you kind of have like I have friends in the US, they're teachers. Like they've homeschooled all their kids, they're teachers. That's the type of dudes, that's the type of family I would love to have on that place, because that guy is a history teacher, so he loves to teach kids. And he's great at teaching. So that's the type of guy. You have a little school for the people that don't want to put their kids in. Do you know what I'm saying? Like just a mini society, but just with the people that personally, that are contributing, that have a skill that, again, zombie team, bro. People that have a skill that you don't have necessarily. So
a barter system. So, we're gonna get into the topics here, but I gotta take this one comment here. Pam says my friend's brother was paid to have sex with the girls there. Not sure if they still do that or think they are diverse enough to stay in the family.
Oh yeah,
you gotta explain that one, Pam. What's going on there, and how do we get this work? Who is the recruiter?
I was going to say the real question Rob wants to know: how does he get involved?
Yes. That's actually hilarious. I assume are they as religious as the Amish, or are they slightly less? Because I find that surprising.
Clearly, slightly less.
Yeah,
clearly, slightly less.
What are the qualifications? What are the criteria needed to be one of these people? But
it was 30 years. It was 30 years ago.
Oh, geez, wow, yeah, crazy. He had an OnlyFans before it was OnlyFans.
Yeah, except it was only paid.
Yeah, that's right. That's really funny. All right, what do we got on the agenda today?
You ready? You ready for this? You ready for our first topic of the day?
Let's do it.
The Financial Times reports that the EU is to exempt heavy industries from carbon tax on exports. This is something that is going absolutely viral right now, because we're in Canada and our prime minister and the one before put so many policies in place based on a green agenda, based on climate change, based on carbon tax to try to curb our impact on climate. And even as recently as the last election, Mark Carney was saying that it is a must that we put a price on carbon. And I have the videos. I'll show the videos afterwards, but we must have a price on carbon because this is the only way that we can deal with the EU. It turns out that the EU themselves have come to the conclusion that their sector, especially when you talk about steel, cement, and aluminum, are suffering. They can't compete with the world's competitors. So the foreign competitors, they can't compete because guess what? Places like China, places like India,
they don't give a
like
shit.
The US, nope.
They're not going to handcuff. They're not going to handcuff themselves, and that's exactly what these taxes do. They handcuff, like they're garbage. They hand, and this is separate. Even if you fully believe in the climate change narrative and all that, you should still be against these because they don't do anything. They don't actually. They're just about virtue signaling and woke.
It's a cash grab. It's a cash grab.
100%. Frankly, and we've talked about this a lot before. And this is why another reason why I'm skeptical of the narrative is if you were genuinely concerned about climate change and emissions, by far the most obvious solution to this is you'd be pushing nuclear so hard, nuclear, because that is the low hanging fruit in the drive to lower emissions. We have the technology to do it. We can do it safely. The fact that there was two major meltdowns in fucking the history, like, so what? You had Fukushima and you had obviously Chernobyl. The fact of the matter is, it's like every time a plane crashes, although that sucks, airline travel actually gets safer because we learn from it. We figure out the mistakes that cause, and then it gets better. It's the same thing that's going on here. So to say, oh, well, we had two meltdowns at Fukushima and Chernobyl, therefore nuclear is unsafe. Actually, it's safer because of those. We've learned from them. We have the technology to do it safe. And so when you're out there banging the drum on climate change, but you're silent on nuclear adoption at scale, I'm skeptical because that's the only real solution that I can see.
And, remember when we talked to Judith Curry, what she said was absolutely bang on. So we need to develop technology based on the terrain, based on the natural resources, based on what the country has to offer, because the way that the climate change has been put together, like the green agenda, is an attack on oil and gas. It's not even about reducing our impact, if you believe that we do have an impact on climate, but it's about reducing our oil and gas consumption. But it makes no sense for certain countries to do so because that's all they have. This is where technologies like nuclear technology, thermal technology that's being developed as we speak. But for countries like us, like Canada, that has the third biggest reserve of oil and gas in the world, why the hell would we build nuclear when we have the natural resources? We have the infrastructure almost in place to do so. We just need to develop it from coast to coast and would be able to be one of the main producers of oil and gas in the world, because let's not lie to each other, we are no way close to ending our dependency on oil and gas. Should that be our goal 20, 30, 40 years ago, for 40 years from now? Sure. But right now, it makes zero sense. And then you look at a place like Quebec that has the most hydroelectricity basically in the world. So in Quebec, does oil and gas make as much sense? Not really, because electricity can be used through hydroelectricity, but you still need oil and gas to power your home, maybe to power your cars. In Alberta, they could supply the whole rest of Canada. Places where they don't have natural resources, build nuclear plants, build thermal plants. So this is what it's all about. And this is why I found this article so interesting, because finally the European Commission is saying that the European Commission will propose on Wednesday, which was yesterday, that sectors such as steel, cement, and aluminum should be exempt from paying for the carbon emission of their exports to level the playing field with foreign competitors. And that's according to the two EU officials involved in the talks. This, to me, is just simple common sense. The fact that we've dug a hole like that where this needs to be proposed and accepted makes zero sense to me, because simple common sense. What are your natural resources? What are you capable of producing locally? Use that as your power. Because most people don't know this, but you look at their alternate energy like wind. Do you know that it takes a shit amount of oil and gas in order to keep on running? And the shelf life is not even that long. Same thing with EV batteries. You look at your car. People are like, oh, yeah, but that's so much better. Yeah, but do you know that most places that you use electricity has been powered by a technology that you don't consider green, like oil and gas, like nuclear? So, and not only that, but EV batteries have a shelf life of about 10 years. They say 10 to 20. and we don't even know how to recycle them. We literally need to put them in the ground and hope that one day we develop technology to recycle them. So
there's a lot of environmental destruction about mining lithium and cobalt and all those minerals. It's just like you said, it's common sense. It's just not like, it's nonsense policies. Even if you believe in the climate change narrative, you still should want policies that actually work, right? That's just a bare minimum standard for any type of policy making all over the world. If it doesn't work, and it's idiotic to think that a carbon tax on industry is going to help if China and the United States are not doing it. Like, these are by far the two. What are they together? They're probably more than half the world's global emissions. So if they're not on board, and they're not, for Canada and the EU to be doing this shit, it's just performative nonsense. You're crippling your own economy. You're tying your own hands behind your back, just to virtue signal to some far left woke activists. And it's idiotic. It's bad leadership. It's bad policy. And kudos to the EU for rescinding a bad policy. Now let's hear Mark Carney do the same thing. It's funny because, sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. It's just that I wanted to show. Let me show this just because of exactly what you're talking about right now. It kind of makes sense. Before we go back to the article, because there was a couple more things I wanted to show, but this is basically just to put a nice picture. And I apologize for the naked dude that's right next to it. I don't choose the ads that are on there. But this is basically to show you who
that's your search history, is it?
We kind of do look alike, don't we?
He looks like your type.
This is my dream body right there, brother. Little bitch tits and stuff. But this just puts it into perspective, right? So China's producing literally 31% of the world's CO2.
Okay, and India is not doing carbon taxes either.
No, 7.3. The US, depending on what you look, is between 10 to 14%. So that's pretty bang on. But you know the part I like the most? Do you see like the little tiny portion right here, like where it says Canada?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's us.
1.5%. So, you know, if you looked at the EU, the UK is 1%, Poland's 1%, Turkey's 1%, Russia's 5%, Italy's 1%, Germany's 2%. So that's 3, that's 4, that's 5, that's 6. That's 5. So between all of Europe with Russia, 9%. US, 13.5. Canada, 1.5. China, 31%. India, 7.3%. And the rest of the world combined outside of the sphere that you saw is 21.7%. So we produce 10 times more. We produce less than 10 times what the rest of the world produce, and we're literally the second biggest country on the planet.
It's ridiculous. It's
yeah.
And look, man, like you get the picture I have of Carney in my mind is him like bursting through, like being like, yeah, we're gonna tackle climate change, right, guys?
Crickets.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking tumbleweed rolls by. And this is what we talked about yesterday. There does seem to be a vibe shift that climate change, clearly people still talk about it, but it does not seem to be the guiding factor, nor should it be, right? And Carney,
Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg.
Yeah. If Greta Thunberg doesn't even give a shit about climate anymore, right? She read the room. She's like, oh man, nobody gives a shit about that. And in fact,
2 years ago.
We're joking.
2 years ago.
But I guarantee you, she's actually probably a pretty good indicator for this stuff, because she would have pretty good inside knowledge on how much donation money is coming in, and she probably
people on the streets that she talks to all the time. But I was looking this morning because I made a joke exactly about what you said. 2 years ago, she started talking about Free Palestine back in October.
Yes, yeah,
2023 or September.
Yeah.
So even her.
She was like, okay, I've wrung as much, I've squeezed as much. Yeah, exactly, right? Squeeze as much fucking blood out of this stone as I'm going to get. Yeah. Time to move on to the next grift. And then, Palestine dropped into her lap. But
They
you know,
needed a little white girl from Europe to.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. To solidarity. How dare you? How dare you? But
One of the best meme ever. That is such a great fucking meme right there. So I wanted to go back to just the article before we go a bit further, because there was, see, this is what's funny, is that they're finally starting to understand that the proposal comes amidst heating debate over the ability of the EU to meet its climate change targets against the backdrop of a global trade war and rapid shift of priorities towards defense and economic competitiveness. There's never been a shift. It's just that the US didn't go down that road. China does not care, and India doesn't care either.
Read that again. Highlight that part.
It's like, okay, it's saying that amidst, it's saying
a rapid shift. Oh yes, as if I know what you're saying. There was no shift.
Drop. No, there hasn't. You tried to shift the narrative.
They tried to make a shift, and the shift they tried to make didn't happen. And now they're saying, "Oh, it was a big shift." No, there wasn't. There just was never the shift in the first place that you were expecting.
But this is a part right here that I find absolutely hilarious. So it says that measures such as the block carbon border tax were fantastic for decarbonization, but could be at the expense of our own companies, and that they face unfair competition on the global market. There's no unfair. You guys literally
you're the one who did it. You're the one who did it.
Yourself in the foot trying to be better than everybody else, and China and India and the US is like,
it's like a guy, a boxer goes into the ring, ties his own hands behind his back, and when he gets punched in the face, he's like, hey, that's not fair. Motherfucker, you're the one who did it to yourself. You're an idiot. Like, why would you add a tax on your own companies for no reason that doesn't actually do any benefit? Your companies that are competing on the international stage against international global companies that do not have a tax, just to feel good about yourself. Like, and then you wonder, it's the epitome of bad policy making. And in my mind, it is everything that's wrong with how far left ideology, it's sort of how the sausage gets made. You know what I mean? It's just, and we've talked about this before. The problem, one of the main problems with far left ideologies, like say communism or transgenderism and even this kind of stuff, is it just completely ignores everything we know about human nature. You know what I mean? It's like they create a world that they want to be true that is not, and then they make policy based on this imaginary world, and it's utterly wishful thinking, and that is the left in a nutshell. Just wishful thinking. If we pretend the world is this way, it will be that way. Meanwhile, they're going out and making policies for this imaginary world, while the rest of the world is over here being like, check out these fucking idiots, fucking taxing their own companies for no reason, handcuffing themselves on the global stage. And the EU, it was an idiotic policy to put in place. At least they've realized it now. Now let's have because like what and we're gonna play the clip. Yeah, okay. I'll wait to play the clip.
We spoke about what the EU's proposing, but do you guys remember this? This was during it was either I believe it was when he took over the Liberal leadership before the election. But do you remember? Oh, hold on, I got to remove this one. But remember, for my Canadian friends out there, our Canadian listeners, do you remember
one of the requirements is to diversify trade to the European Union? Guess what one of the requirements is to diversify trade to the United Kingdom? Guess what one of the requirements will be to diversify trade to emerging Asia? Is to have a form of price on carbon.
That clip, honestly, that might be like Carney Chernobyl. That might be the one thing that really starts to make people realize, okay, like, how much of this is just, this guy's just an empty suit. He just talks nonsense, right? He was sold as the adult in the room, right? That's what, especially after Trudeau, who just was this, the I don't know. I think that the idea most people have about Trudeau is just a kid, right? In over his head. And then Carney comes in the adult in the room, big dad energy. And he, I think he is effective at conveying that when he talks. He gives that impression. But stuff like that just shows this guy's just an empty suit, man. Like, he just says shit. And it was idiotic at the time to think that fucking China expects or demands their trade partners to have a price on carbon. Like, that's just insulting the intelligence of the listeners. It was bad enough. Like, that was never even true of the EU. The EU, like, they had their own carbon tax, but they never demanded anyone else did. But to say that China did, like, come the fuck on, man. And now he looks really dumb because even the fucking EU is like, no, this is stupid.
And every time you listen,
popped up again.
I gotta clear my internet search before I start sharing my screen. But this is what's funny, right? Every single time you hear Mark Carney talk about carbon tax, climate change from now on, remember that. Always think about this. So in order to do business with the EU, we need to have a price on carbon. They're talking about removing their own carbon tax from 90% of their industries. Really? So we need to have a carbon tax. Awesome. Why is it that the EU has already signed deals with the US when Canada hasn't? Do you think they really give a fuck? You're going to tell me to deal with China?
Gives a fuck.
The 31% of CO2 in the world comes from China. You think they care about emission? They couldn't give two shits, but they want you to care. Because that means that you're literally shooting yourself in the foot and you can't compete with them. So they're happy. They want you to have a carbon tax because they're not going to put one in place.
Well, yeah, of course. Like, you want your competitors to hamstring themselves. The rest of the world probably couldn't believe their luck that the EU and Canada was stupid enough to fucking, what are these idiots doing? To hamstring their own companies with a senseless tax, a needless tax. And remember, Carney's big thing where he slid the carbon tax down to zero. That was only the consumer. We do still have a carbon tax on our industry. And if you don't think that's partly to blame for our stagnating economy for the last 10 years, then, you need to sort of open your eyes a little bit, because that is like, there's other factors involved. Specifically, I think the primary factor is the liberal policy of just fundamentally anti-development liberal policies. But that carbon tax thing, that absolutely it hurts our competitiveness on the global stage, and that in turn directly impacts our GDP.
So just because you're bringing up a good point right here, let me show this. I just found that as you were speaking here, but here's an article from taxpayer.com from 2024, so literally a year ago.
Yep.
And it says that the federal carbon tax currently costs 17 cents per liter of gasoline, 21 cents per liter of diesel, and 15 cents per cubic meter of natural gas. The carbon tax adds about $13 to the cost of filling up a minivan, about $20 to the cost of filling up a pickup truck, and about $200 to the cost of filling up a big rig truck with diesel. Farmers are charged the carbon tax for heating their barns and drying grains with natural gas and propane. The carbon tax will cost Canadian farmers $1 billion by 2030, according to the parliamentary budget officer. No matter how many times this government tries to lipstick on the carbon tax pig, the reality is clear, says Krim Sims, CTF Alberta director. This tax costs Canadian big time at the gas pump, on home heating bills, on the farm, and at the dinner table. Trudeau should make life more affordable and improve the Canadian economy by scrapping this carbon tax. So this was last year. So you're talking about more than $1 billion that it cost the farmers alone. Oh, I thought I had the screen shared, but hey, there you go. Just to show you guys that I was just making shit up as I was going.
Yeah.
But you're talking about billions of dollars. Amen. You're talking about 17 cents per liter of gasoline, 21 cents per liter of diesel, and 15 cents per cubic meter of natural gas. $13 more to fill up a minivan, $20 to the cost of filling up a pickup truck, and about $200 to the cost of filling up a big rig with diesel, and more than $1 billion that it will cost by 2030 to the Canadian farmers. And this is not just the consumer part. You're talking about the industrial, the commercial part. So to tell us that it doesn't cost us anything is so much bullshit. But yet 2 days ago, here's what Mark Carney said. Just a little clip from his Canada speech that he made in Ottawa 2 days ago.
Time to make our companies more competitive while we're fighting climate change. It's time.
More competitive while we're
That
fighting
didn't-
climate change. That didn't age
2
well.
days old. 2 days. 2 days
I mean,
old.
look,
Whoops.
and this what he just said there is it sums up perfectly the problem with all this shit. Just be fucking honest. Like if you firmly believe that a carbon tax, an industrial carbon tax, is the right policy, then make that case. But you got to be honest with it. You got to say, yes, we know there will be trade-offs. It will hurt our competitiveness economically, but we believe it's necessary for this reason, blah, blah, blah. I'll disagree with you, but at least I can respect that you're being honest. But this bullshit of telling us, oh, this will actually make us more competitive, when that's just not true. Take away everything else. You could be the biggest climate change believer in the world. You could think there should be 100% carbon tax. You have to at least recognize the reality that it will make you less competitive on the global stage. Don't fucking lie to us, because that's the most grievous sin here. Bad policy is one thing, right? People choose bad policies, but if you lie about it, that's when it veers into I don't use the word evil much, especially if we're talking about politics, because I don't like to think that just because someone has bad policy, they're evil. But that's when you're getting into that territory. Is when you're lying about it. Guys, we're talking about the EU canceling their carbon tax and where that puts Mark Carney, who's obviously still a big proponent of the carbon tax. Throw your comments in the comment section. We will get to them once we're done our segment here, which will be pretty soon, I believe. Guys, and if you are listening, especially for the first time, remember to like and share the stream. That's one way to support us. If you think there's a need for a show like this, a place where common sense people from all over the political spectrum get together and have respectful debates, you can support the show for the low price of $2.99 per month. That will allow you to support the show, help build this community, support independent media, and you'll get a big thank you from us on the show as well. We'll highlight you and be like, "Ooh, we got a new member." So who doesn't want that? But guys,
by the way, if you're on X, guys, make sure to like, comment on X, reshare the stream. But you really want to go on the YouTube channel to join the conversation. That's right there at the bottom. So top of the screen, it says @the Poli Orphans. Join us, subscribe on YouTube, and have your voice heard.
Yeah. And guys, we're just getting lots of comments come in. Lots of them look forward to answering. So we'll get to those in a minute. Don't worry. But if you are new, the show is based on audience engagement. So throw whatever your comments you got in there. Disagree with us, agree with us. We like it all. As long as you're commenting, we're happy.
Just do your work. Bring your work with you.
Show the work. That's
Show
all it is.
your work.
Almer Stuff. Greetings from the queue. Greetings to you, sir.
Is that because I'm bald, like Cue Ball? Is that
or Quebec?
Is the Quebec, the Cue Ball from Quebec? That would be a great nickname.
Cue Ball from
Cue
Quebec.
Ball from Quebec. Damn.
Yes. Do we have, as Robin says, 35 watching, only 11 likes. Come on, guys. You got to get those likes up there. Remember to like the smash button, as we tend to say around here. Do we have any more clips on this story, or should we start to dig into the comments?
No, I really want. I just wanted to show the hypocrisy, and because it's funny that for months now and for years under Trudeau, we were sold the idea that we need to do something about climate change when Canada represents 1.5% of the world emission. And I guarantee you that if you take into consideration all of the forests that we have, we're zero like we're sub-zero emission. We probably recycle more CO2. And guess what? For the people that might not have assisted to their physics class or their history class or whatever class they taught that ecology
Yep.
ecology classes, trees need CO2. And when you tend to give them more CO2, the trees grow bigger. Just saying. So in Canada, I wouldn't be surprised if we're sub-zero, like we have no emission whatsoever. But let's say we believe the 1.5%, that's 1.5%, and yet we have carbon tax on most of our services.
And I even want to separate during this sort of debate and this discussion the idea that like I don't even want to really get down into do you believe the climate change narrative or not, because even if you
don't need to,
you should still support policies that actually will do something to reduce emissions. And none of this does, right? All it does is cripple domestic industries, cripple our companies on the world stage. And let's look, an important part of GDP is how well your biggest global companies do on the global stage, right? There's a massive benefit to that, because remember, the US dollar is getting paid, is the global reserve currency. Any international services or goods that are bought and sold are going to be paid in US dollars. And so once those companies convert that back into Canadian, that's a big boost too. So, it really behooves our companies to be able to do well on the global stage if we want to boost that GDP, which has been anemic at 1% growth over 10 years. And no, that is not 1% per year, which would be pretty bad. It is 1% overall over 10 years. And you wonder why that might be the case. Well, the carbon tax and the Bill C-69 and just the mindset behind that is exactly why. It isn't just some coincidence that, as soon as Justin Trudeau took power in 2015, the economy started to stagnate. Literally 5 minutes after he got elected, stagnated. It is a direct result of actual policies put in place. This is why leadership matters. This is why policy matters. So we're going to get the comments here in 1 second. This to me is a giant misstep by Carney. He needs to get away from this idea that climate change needs to be the guiding principle for our policy. I have no problem with factoring it in. I know there are people who say don't even consider it whatsoever. I don't have an issue if you want to factor it in, but if it is your guiding principle, that is a recipe for 1% growth over 10 years.
If you're gonna factor, if you believe that climate change is real, climate is always changing. So climate change technically is real, but if you believe that humans have an impact on climate, that means that you need to do, like we were saying at the beginning, and provide the best technology based on natural resources and not just a direct attack on oil and gas. Because this is what the climate change movement has become. Not building the best technology, because nuclear is technically a green technology.
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely. No, anybody who says it isn't is fucking retarded, man. It's
drop
just
mic, bro. Drop your mic, because this is the best answer.
It's crazy. Look, if you are, and that's part of my skepticism. And like you said, that's right. It's all about anti-oil and gas. And if you don't want to even zoom out a bit, that's another major issue I have with so much of left-wing activism. It's not for anything. It never actually provides solutions. It's just anti-everything. Tear down capitalism. Okay, sure. What are you going to replace it with? Well, I don't know. Communism. Okay, you mean the thing that failed literally every single fucking time you've tried it? Oh, well, they haven't done it the real way. Okay, sure, pal. Sure, Jan. But so give me solutions, right? I don't care about problems. Don't just tear down shit. Give me solutions. And anybody who is a genuine climate activist, if they're not also pounding the drum on nuclear, I'm not going to believe that you actually give a shit about emissions, because that is by far the only real true solution that we have, technologically speaking, at the moment. So then, let's jump into the comments here.
Tag me where it starts right here.
Yes, Tammy, the climate scam in Canada is like that underpants gnomes episode of South Park. I actually don't recall that one. Oh,
I don't know
Tammy,
that one either.
Tammy gives us a step-by-step. Step 1, collect underpants. Step 2, Step 3, profit. I mean, it's kind of what I was just saying about left-wing activism, right? They'll say the problem or the issue, and then they'll cut to the profit, but they leave out step 2, the how you actually get there, which of course is the most important step.
Hold on, I found it right here.
All right, so
those are the steps. So that's basically exactly what you were saying.
Yes.
Phase 1. So phase 1, collect underpants. Phase 2, phase 3,
profit. Everybody likes this. Everybody loves phase 3. Yeah.
Oh boy, Tammy. Zing a zing zing.
Yeah, nice one. Tammy says no real plans to get there, just tons of money taken from taxpayers with nothing to show for it, and a lot of richer politicians. Actually, that's a great comment to tie everything that Tammy said together there, because that's exactly what it seems like, and that's why I said yesterday. Look, I am open to the idea that perhaps human burning of fossil fuels has caused some degree of warming. To what extent? But when I see all these corrupt politicians just using this to implement new taxes, to take new powers, that's what makes me think, okay, this whole thing's a fucking scam. So if the people who believe this shit are frustrated that the rest of us are not as on board, they have no one to blame but themselves, because they're the ones who push the grift.
God damn, bro, you're pissed off today.
Yeah, I'm in the zone today.
So that for the people that might not realize that, I am the conservative.
Yes. I'm the liberal, I'm the progressive, but I'm just today I'm in one of those just sick of this shit moods.
No, you know what it is? In the same way as I rip into Pierre Poilievre for not being conservative enough, you rip in leftist policies that are way too good.
Yep.
So you're playing your role right now. You're doing exactly what you're doing, and I'm gonna let you do it because it's fucking entertaining as shit.
Well, I think it's effective. Like, of course, you as a conservative, you're gonna rip into the left, and of course, I can rip into the right. But that's what everybody does, right? Like, if we're trying to be productive, we should be, fix your own side first, fix your own home first, and then worry about the other side. Drew Coover says, best day yet for the Carney haters. Oh, that's a great mustache, Drew. I forgot about Drew.
This is the best mustache in the fucking business.
Yeah,
you made 80s porn stash look like gay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, yeah. 80s porn stars are calling Drew, being like, "Bro, how'd you get that mustache?" He said, and there's nothing good about the EU. Yeah,
I mean, like that the EU sounds like EU.
Drew Coover, Canada first, Canadians first. And he says, and finally, so that's where he's talking about that dude that was on your screen there. Take that off, he says. Angry Canadian says,
did you like it?
Yeah, he likes a little too much. Angry Canadian says, Greta knows nothing. She's fed info from her handlers and parents. And if you're just tuning in wondering how we got to Greta Thunberg, that was from a few minutes ago. We were discussing how, isn't it funny how even Greta Thunberg kind of gave up on the climate thing now. She's obviously all in for Palestine. That's her new thing. But, if Greta Thunberg read the room and it's like, yeah, the climate people don't really care as much, maybe that's an indicator. And Drew says, you guys are talking about a woman that is in her early 20s, guys. And I did want to take this comment because I kind of feel like Drew's sort of like something like, oh, guys, you can't, don't talk about it like that. And I don't know, man, I just disagree with that completely. As you say, and forgive me if I'm interpreting this wrong, but saying, I think I'm interpreting you saying like, guys, leave her alone. She's only in her early 20s. But like, that's an adult, man. She's in her early 20s. She is an actual activist, and she has really real policy. She has the things she does actually. Do you think that the carbon taxes would be put in place if Greta Thunberg went around? Maybe not, but they wouldn't be unless people like Greta Thunberg were around. Once you step into the political arena, you're fair game, especially if you're early 20s. That's an adult, man. Like we're not ripping on her personally. We're ripping on her fly by night activism. And I think that's perfectly fair game.
See, I'm not ripping into her for what she represented, because as a child she was used by her parents. Her parents are massive activists. Clearly she's on a spectrum of some type. If you've ever seen an interview with her, you can tell that she's not your average teenager and now young adult. But
Mhm.
the point I was making by ripping into Greta Thunberg was not an insult towards her. It was literally, she read the room 2 years ago, yet she became the face of climate change when she was a teenager. And even her saw that the movement was like, eh.
Yeah.
So as a grifter, she's like, what's in right now? Free Palestine. So all I'm saying is, as a young woman, she read the room. Maybe it's time that Marx figures it out that nobody gives a fuck about climate change anymore. At least not to the point that we are going to shoot ourselves in the foot and destroy our own economy. And yes, Mark is his new name. I made that up this morning.
Mark Carney.
Mark Carney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marks and the Funky Bunch. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Marks and the something bunch. I need to
yeah. All right. Speaking of Carney, Angry Canadian says Carney needs to be locked in a room with a starving Joe Rogan just for a little while. Bumpy continues, I could never look at a man with a trans child as a dad. He's a pathetic, weak, man, a goblin-esque ghoul. So I think, so Bumpy's referring to the comment that I had made where I said Carney was clearly sold as the adult in the room, and that sort of narrative is crashing down. When I was saying that, I meant that's what he was sold as to his base. I'm not saying he does have somewhat of a dad energy. I never personally saw him in that way. Much for the reason that you actually described here. I try to keep my critiques and attacks on politicians stick to their policies and their politics, because we don't know their personality, we don't know who they are in private. But that one thing, how he sent his daughter to the now shuttered Tavistock Clinic in the UK. Which is famous for, it's shuttered because it trans every fucking kid that came in there. Girls came in because they were sexually assaulted, trans. Girls came in because they were anorexic, trans. Fucking let's cut your breasts off. And it was a scandal in this clinic, and it's been shut down now. And Mark Carney sent his daughter to that. So yeah, that does tell me something about who he is as a person, his character, his ability to protect his child, and his judgment. And those things are valid criticisms if you're talking about someone who wants to be a leader.
You know what's interesting about what you're saying? Because I recorded a one-on-one interview with Billboard Chris a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, give or take, and I finally finished putting it together this morning. It's going to be released soon, and you guys will be able to do it. And I got to say, it's probably my favorite interviews that I've ever done, because that dude's on point, right? There's no questions you can't.
He knows it. Yeah, he knows it.
Oh, bro, he's giving speeches to the UN. He's giving speeches to some of the biggest politicians in the planet. So talking to him was really cool, and he's a super cool dude. Like I'm a fan. But one of the things he surprised me, because he did talk about Carney. He ripped into the conservative, and he said something along the lines that he wouldn't be surprised if the Carney government is the one that's going to start talking against the trans agenda before the conservative does. And the reason why he said that is because, when his daughter went to that clinic in the UK, but then nothing happened. It was more like just talk therapy. But it's when she went to Yale, she had a double vasectomy. And he's like, I have 2 daughters, and there's no way as a father deep down, he's happy about this. So he made an interesting point. Like, I have the video. I haven't chopped it off in small portions yet, but I was rewatching it this morning, and I'm like, let's not go down that rabbit hole, because that's going to cover the whole episode. No. I just wanted to say that even a guy like Billboard Chris kind of had a different spin to it, just because he's like, as a father, there's no way that he's happy about that. Like, as a father, there's no way. And he made a valid point that I have to give it to him, that he was asked once about, how many sexes there are, and he kind of avoided the question, right? Like he did the same thing as Pierre Poliev does. Like, he kind of
You kind of
Hey, look
expect
over
it
there.
from the liberal. You expect it from the
Look
liberal.
over there. Look over there.
Yeah,
Don't look at me. Look over there.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
he didn't.
Pay no
he
attention
didn't
to the
go-
man behind the curtain.
But he didn't go into details, and he is not as Justin Trudeau. I have to admit that as a conservative, I look at the way Carney handled the question versus Justin Trudeau would have just went triple, quadruple, 10 times down more money. Like,
Oh, there's
he would've-
72 genders, and they can
154
change
probably.
every 5 minutes, just depending on what pants you're wearing.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is he made an interesting point that I have to think about further, but I'm looking forward to releasing that interview because it was great to talk to him, by the way.
Yeah, guys, we're talking about Mark Carney, the EU, and slashing carbon taxes, and what's next for that relationship. We're taking comments from our audience now, and yeah, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole, but I just want to add very quickly to what you're just saying.
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but
I'm going
add
to.
my own rabbit hole, please. Yeah, of course.
But the counterpoint to that is, the sunk cost fallacy. The idea that once you've invested something, the gambler who says, "Fuck, I've already spent 5,000. What's another 2,000?" Well, that's a fallacy because 2,000 is still 2,000. And I think could also be the other opposite extreme for the parents of the trans people who have trans or kids is they like think of what they've given up, think of what they've done to their kids. They may never be able to psychologically accept that was the wrong decision, because then they would have to accept that they've destroyed their children. And so it's like you said, it's a great comment, a great, very interesting point. Certainly not to think about. You have
to listen, but it's just that with a guy like Billboard Chris, you just have to respect his opinion because he's in it.
He knows
day in, day out, and he's on the world stage. Literally.
He's in the trenches. He's in the
trenches. I would argue that he is the biggest voice against the transitioners, like against puberty blockers and anything below the age of 18. He must be the biggest name on the planet when it comes to that. At least that's the most known to me. I just respect his opinion.
Yep.
And because I met the guy, he looks like there's no difference between what you see on camera and in real life. Like I had lunch with him. He's a super nice guy. Like we chatted for a good 2 hours. He's just a good dude, a father that cares about his daughters, because doing what he does is not easy. Like he gets a lot of shit. He gets arrested. He gets put in prison. He's had his arm broken.
He walks the walk. He walks the walk as well as talk.
You got to respect that.
Yep.
Like it or not, you got to respect that.
Absolutely. Continuing with the comments, Bumpy says, Canada's the new Poland. How many Canadians does it take to screw in a light bulb? I don't know, but it'll cost you. And it's funny because I wanted to take this because
and now you look at the Poland that completely switched to a Christian nation now.
Yeah. Well, because I saw a meme or a graph a few days ago about Poland's GDP, and I wanted to bring this up.
Of course.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we would be lucky to be fucking Poland. Look at this. This starts back in 1990. Their GDP per capita was 10,000 versus Japan. As the comparison up here is almost 40,000, and they have closed that gap almost entirely in one generation, from 10,000 GDP per capita to over 45,000. That is essentially an economic miracle. So I just thought that was funny because, yeah, you're right. That is the joke, right? The Poles, haha. But Canada, it would be a dream scenario if we could be even a fraction as good economically as Poland has been. That's a miracle story, what Poland has done. And I think it's honestly not even that well talked about, but I think they're going to be, that's going to be taught in finance, business schools for the next couple decades.
You're probably right.
Vale Haas. I'm not sure if you've been posted here before. I don't recognize his name, but welcome and thanks for the comment, Vale. Says, can't have a massive, impactful change to energy supplies without first creating the infrastructure. What is going to replace gas? That's a good question. You can't, that's why these nonsense policies or laws, like what do they have? 10 years until all our cars are EVs. Is that what it is? 2035? Was that the
2035? Yeah.
See, like you can't. That's just such backwards way to do policy. You don't put the policy in without an actual placement. That's not feasible, right? Let the market. Like, yes, I have no problems with government investing in research towards getting us off of oil, especially because there'll be a business case for that, right? That I think the future probably is technology where we're not reliant on oil. Renewable energy sources that are actually work are so attractive because yes, there's the pollution aspect, but there's also just the economic aspect. A renewable energy source, in theory, should not cost nearly as much as digging oil out of the ground. And so, but you got to let those, like, the market will dictate when those technologies have gotten mature enough to actually be able to take over the load. That will happen naturally and organically. We don't need to force it along the way, because what'll happen is we might get there in 2035 and the entire country will wake up on fucking January when it's minus 20 and no one's car will start. You know what I mean? Obviously I'm being facetious. Not the entire country will not start, but like we'll be like, holy shit, we didn't really think this through, did we? So it's just, you can't have those kind of dumb economic policies. You can't put the horse before the cart. Just put in place the parameters or the conditions for these technologies to thrive, and then let the market do what the market does.
Especially not considering the amount of natural resources in oil and gas that we have in Canada.
Exactly, right?
Like,
exactly.
Yep.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. Just continue. Just continue.
I was saying,
taking some of the comments, man.
Yeah, I was saying, like, yeah, even if if we were a country that had no oil and gas, then yeah, we wouldn't need to be concerned about. But like we have a ton of oil and gas. We should play the cards that were dealt, right? And if a technology at some point in the future becomes so effective that it organically replaces oil and gas, that's great. But if we have to force it, then it's not organic and it's not ready to take over the load. Let's see a couple more. Wise Guy says, it seems to me the only thing keeping climate change alive is that people like Carney have invested so much money into the narrative. They will lose it all if it goes away, but it's going away. And that's kind of, what I was just talking about a few minutes ago, the sunk cost fallacy. It's not just economic. It's also the psychology of it. People who have staked their entire career.
His fucking book, Values, from 2021, he talks about COVID and he talks about climate change, how they should be health and climate change should be at the base of every single economic policy that we put together. So there's a massive sink cost for Mark Carney, even if it's just on, what's the term I should be using here, on the words that he's been using, on the policies that he wants to push, because remove climate change from his repertoire of policies, he's pretty fucked.
Yeah. Take this one from Chris H, because I feel like this will definitely generate some discussion. Chris says, socialism is the way. China is socialist, and they are far more innovative than we are in the West. They have working tech like hydrogen fuel cell, thorium reactors, and artificial sun reactors. So before I throw this over to Nico, because I have a feeling like I know what he's going to say, I wanted to soften the ground a little bit. I don't agree with that take that socialism is the way, but I it's a valid take. If it's your opinion, sure, bring it in. Like we want comments from all over. I would probably quibble. I don't think that like they are innovative for sure. Is that because of socialism? I don't think the two are connected. I think they would be probably more innovative if they were a capitalist society. Just because of socialism doesn't mean they will not have any innovation whatsoever. It just means that the innovation will be inefficient. Bang for buck, they probably are not nearly as innovative as they would be if they had the efficiency of capitalist markets. But I appreciate the comments.
Well, they're not socialist.
We love all sides.
They're communist. They're not socialist. They're communist. And we've discussed this before. They're communists within their country. They're capitalists with the rest of the world. So technically, being a full communist country cannot exist in a world where everybody's interconnected the way that it is right now. Correct. So this is a fallacy. To say that they're actually communists is kind of a fallacy, because they are with just their people. And this is where the problem is. Even the people in power, the people that run the country, understand how much communism does not actually work on a global scale. They use it to control their population, to make sure that they have a say in absolutely every type of business, every aspect of their citizens' lives. But they understand that it doesn't work on the global scale, so they're capitalist. it's such a fallacy to use China as an example, but at the same time, look at the rights that the government have over their people. They don't get to choose what they do. They really don't. Why do you think there's so many fucking Chinese people in Vancouver? Because they hide their money in Vancouver so that the government can go after it. Like,
well, that's why so much Chinese money is in Vancouver real estate.
Of course it is,
because that's their backup plan if the government does go full on communist and takes their shit from them. I think so. Like you said, is correct. I don't think it'd be possible for a major country to be fully communist in this world. I think we want to be real careful about picking China as our model that we want to be, because beyond things like their innovation, you get into like the social credit score, and that's dystopian as fuck. I think I don't think that they're a guide for. Clearly, in some way, it works for them. Like they're a successful country right now. Like we've talked about. They're like President Xi is not stupid. He has a multi-decade plan, and they are executing on it very well. And the Chinese mindset is different, right? It's if you try to apply the Chinese model that is working for them, imposed onto a Western country with our individualistic mindset, the Chinese as a people are much more collectivist, anyways.
And that's don't know that because they've been forced into it for decades. I guarantee you.
Yeah,
I guarantee you. What? Just think about it this way: why is there so many Chinese people that are trying to leave China or to at least dump their money in Canada if communism is the way to go? Have you ever had a conversation with somebody that comes from a communist country like Cuba? I've been to Cuba multiple times, and unlike regular tourists, I don't stay on the resort. I actually go outside and I speak to people. I've never found one person that was okay with being controlled by the government under a communist country. Not one. And if you've seen the state in which they don't live in a very fancy way, my friend. So communism is only great for the people at the top. That's all it's great for. It is a great tool to control people. And if you really want to know how great communism is, just look at the 100 million people that died during the 20th century. Under Stalin, under Mao, under Pol Pot, under Cuba. That's the thing, bro. Like, it's just a matter of control. But the biggest difference between capitalists and communists, you only have a few people at the top that found that took power away from people to control the rest. Capitalism gives you an opportunity to be somebody that's in power. It's just they don't have that opportunity. So to tell me that socialism is the way to go is complete fallacy, especially when you see that China built their own country on taking advantage of their people and making the US and North America dependent on their goods.
They also stole like trillions of dollars worth of intellectual property from American companies as well.
They don't care. They don't have to report to them. They don't care.
Exactly. They do not give a shit. So let's see here. Robin says, I've seen a 20. Oh, this is because we were talking about Carney's trans kid. Says, I seen a 20-year-old man taking a child to a park here by my house, and the kid was calling him mom. I was like, dude, what the fuck is this shit? That poor kid. I know, right? Can you imagine? Just kids need reality to ground themselves to. It's just it's child abuse to force your child to call her father her mother, and the kid will have no idea that how harmful it is to her, but like to have all human beings need some sort of concrete reality to ground ourselves to. And this is what's so insidious about transgender as an ideology. Like, of course, we've talked at length about just the harm done to vulnerable women, young girls who are convinced that they're trans and cutting their breasts off because they've got some mental health comorbidities that are not considered whatsoever. But also just the idea of creating a false reality and imposing that from above. And it's something that babies will recognize. Babies show a strong preference to a female face. Babies will recognize the difference between the sexes. And to hijack that instinctive understanding of reality is deeply harmful and problematic, and it's just one more reason why that ideology, I believe, is needs to be relegated to the dustbin of history before long. But we're going to get back to the comments, because sometimes I can get down those rabbit holes. Wise Guy says, I think oil has gotten a bad rep and is not a major polluter as they claim. Our cars are super clean burning, and so are the factories. It's cheap, proven energy. Let's use it. I mean, I'm okay with the claim that oil is a pollutant and emits, but like, it's just, as you say, it's cheap, proven energy. We have to use it. There's a direct correlation between energies used in society, and I'm talking like measurable energy, like in kilojoules, and GDP growth. They are directly correlated. You cannot grow your economy without using energy, and there is just simply no other type of energy bang for your buck like oil and gas right now. Now, if your take is you just want to live in the Stone Ages and just say to fuck with modern society, the modern world, okay, I don't agree with that, but that's a fair take. But I don't think most people, it's also an extreme take, a radical one. And I think the vast majority of people do not want to do that. So most people want their economy to grow. And in order to do that, unfortunately, oil and gas is the only way to do that right now. Yep. Okay, moving on.
No, it's a fallacy. It's a fallacy to tell people not to use their natural resources and instead invent different ways to shoot yourself in the foot and destroy your middle class.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
We're not getting rid of oil and gas for at least 20, 30, 40 years. Find the technology that will replace it. Nuclear. If you have a problem with nuclear, but you want to get rid of oil and gas, you need to check your sources. You need to check your bias, because, be honest, it's not a war on climate change. It's a war on oil and gas, because nuclear is more green. So don't give me this shit that, oh yeah, but we have to stay away from oil and gas without using nuclear. Okay, cool. That makes sense. Awesome. The day that you stop using electricity, the day that you stop using cars, the day that you stop using any type of technology that uses some type of electricity, we'll talk. But until then, put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And just, one of the things I really, really take issue with like, left-wing activism is this idea that they're great at tearing down shit. They're great at telling you what the problem is. You never hear a solution. And that's just, I'm not interested in that conversation. There's nothing productive about it. Down with capitalism. Okay, what are you going to replace it with? Oh, something great will come along. No, it won't. Down with whatever. Defund the police. Okay, well, what are we going to do about criminals? Oh, something will happen. No, it won't. Like, I'm not. If you don't come to me with a solution, I'm not interested in your opinion about the problem. At least give me something that we can discuss, and I will do the same. Right? If I'm going to tear something down, I'm going to tell you what I think we should replace it with. I might be wrong, but at least I'm going to tell you what I think. But this, it's just intellectually lazy. It's the refuge of morons, of dumb people. Anybody can tear something down. If you're just going to tear down and not give me a solution, then I'm not interested in what you have to say. Now, that said, if I disagree with your solution, that's fine. I don't care. Like, I'll have that discussion with you any day. But give me a solution. You have to bring something to the table, and I'll do the same.
I just wanted to thank, I think it was Tammy, because as we've been talking, I've put something together. I'm going to post this afternoon. So I just kind of changed. I changed what was there in carbon tax profit. Yeah. So thanks, Tammy. I'm going to post that later on. So thanks for the inspiration.
There was a Bumpy says the issue is capitalism promotes the greatest amount of innovation, which requires inequality. Communism seeks to establish equality, but in doing so, it destroys innovation. I actually think that's a great. Assessment. I think that's
He's bang on. He's bang on, because just look at some people use the classical music example, as in, you will always see a very small percentage of people rise to the top in a free market, in a place where anybody can compete. but the best or the more productive or the more innovative wins.
Yep.
You always see a very small percentage, and classical music being the example. There's thousands, if not millions, of people that have created classical music over the past centuries, if not 1,000 years. Yet you know of about 4 or 5 of them, like the Mozarts of this world. Same thing with professional sports. How many people play football in the US? Like, I've seen stadiums in the US where they have 60, 80,000 fucking seat in a college arena. They're not even in the NFL. They're in a college or university. How many of them make it to the NFL? It's 1% of 1%. That's just the way that it is. If you put competition in place where everybody can compete, but you're not trying to control the outcome, guess what? Why do you think most people in fucking football are black? Like, hate it or love it. They got great genetics, man. They literally, we took people as slave and bred them like they were fucking animals. What do you think happened? We got the best, the cream of the cream. We bred them between men and women, cream of the cream woman, cream of the cream men.
Cream of the crop, you mean?
Cream of the cream, cream of the cream. But
okay.
Man, bro, I got some friends that never worked out in their life, and they just turned out to be black. They look like me. They don't work out. They're just genetic freaks because that's just the way we bred them, right?
Do you remember Bo Jackson?
Yeah,
absolutely. Two-sport athlete, absolutely genetic freak. His body was ridiculous. I read his book, and he was telling me when, or not telling me, but he was right. He was
telling
me and Bo. He was saying in the book how when he was 20. Guys were shocked to learn he never went to the gym. He's like, the gym is for pussies. He had this ridiculous body and he never went to the gym.
Look at Ronnie Coleman in bodybuilding.
Oh yeah.
That dude trained probably harder than any other competitors, but on top of that, he had a genetic, like he was a genetic freak. Yes. So, you know.
Oh yeah. I mean, it is what it is. Guys, we're talking about.
That's not necessarily the thing. Is that's not a bad thing. That's just, it enables you. Some people work more than others. Some people will sacrifice everything to make their business thrive. Some people, it doesn't. How many people create content in the world? Like, in something that all you need is a cell phone. There's millions upon millions upon millions of people that create content. There's less than 1% of them that actually make money doing it. So the reality is, everywhere, as soon as you introduce competition without trying to control the outcome, communism. If you're trying to control the outcome, that's communism. Just like Bumpy said, if you're trying to not control the outcome in a free market, capitalism is the way to go. It's that simple. What do you want?
Yeah.
What do you want?
Yeah, I agree. Sean O'Nobud, first time commenter here. Sean, welcome. He says the U.S. is capitalist and is a shithole. So that's obviously subjective. I'd like to know the metrics you're referring to. I think there's no actual statistical metrics that would ever support.
Let me ask you this.
This is vibes. Do you like Trump? This is vibes. I can answer for him. He does not.
How do you feel about Trump? Was it a shithole 6 months ago? Or it wasn't a shit. Like, what's your metric? I agree.
And so Sean continues, more people in prison in the US than in China. And there's a reason for that. It's because China kills them all. They don't fuck with people killed. China does not fuck with keeping people in prisons. China executes more people than all other countries combined, though the exact number is a state secret. It is estimated about 20 to 30,000 per year. So kind of typical of like far left ideology.
Pick your poison, Sean.
Yeah,
pick your poison, Sean.
Kind of typical of sort of like far left ideology where they'll tear down the West or America or some easy target, build up a foreigner, but not really know what they're talking about. But the fact of the matter is,
be nice.
Yes, the fact of the matter is, China does not. The U.S. incarcerates more people than China does because China murders most of the prisoners. And that said, that is not to say that there is not an incarceration problem in America. That's a separate issue, but I would agree with you 100%. Once you start introducing things like for-profit prisons, which are fundamentally immoral, I believe, you are going to have an overly incarcerated population. You know, that as, and that's a separate discussion, but we can still criticize America, but realize that capitalism is by far the best economic system to live under. You know, I think there's a famous quote by I'm going to say Winston Churchill, but I don't know if he's talking about capitalism or democracy, but he says basically democracy is the worst system out there, except for all the other ones that we've tried. It's the same thing, right? Capitalism is the worst system out there, except for all the other ones. You know, it is not perfect.
But just to put it into perspective, to go back to what Sean was saying, the US has, between the period of 2015 to 2018, they were estimating, at least in 2018, they were estimating that 37.3 million people in the US were on antidepressant. You were looking at 13.2% of the population. The US does not have a criminal system problem or a gun problem. It has a mental health problem. Just not that I want you to go down that rabbit hole, but trans being the perfect example of it. 13.2%. That's in 2018. That's the latest information that I can find just on top of the hat there. But more than 10% of people, almost 15% of the people in the US were on some type of antidepressant. That tells you that there's a massive, massive, massive problem. Yeah, and that's the problem that needs to be looked at and addressed. What is causing so many people to be on antidepressant? Yep, that's the real problem we need to address.
I agree. Bumpy says China's greatest weapon is the knowledge that Westerners can be bought. Capitalism flaws greed. Bumpy, I don't know, brother. I think greed is baked into the human condition. I don't think greed first showed its face once capitalism came along. Certainly capitalism, the structure of it allows for human greed to be more
but you're telling me that communism doesn't?
Yeah, there's greed in communism too.
Come on.
Yeah.
You know the expression, you can vote communism in, but you'll need to fight to get it out. I've never heard capitalism with that quote before. It's a communist thing, right?
It's like, you know, sorry, go ahead.
All I was going to say is to go back to Sean, because I should have got that information before. 13.5% of American, which is, what was it, roughly 37.3 million people in 2018 were on some type of antidepressant in the US. Yep. Yet there's only is not a good term, but there's 1.8 million people in some type of incarceration state, between state and federal prison. So there's almost 10 times less people in prison that there are people on antidepressant. So this is a major problem that we're talking. If you look at every single mass shooter out there was on some type of antidepressant in the past 3-4 years. Every single one of them was trans or in a cycle of trans. So you start looking at all the problems in the US, and Canada's no different. We have MAID. It's easier to get. It takes less time to get approved for MAID, which is about 90 days, than to get access to a
therapist. That's fucked up. That's fucked up.
So we don't have an incarceration problem. We have a mental health problem in North America, and that's what needs to be addressed. Bumpy.
Yep, that's a good point. Joe Sardamas is a good comment. It says FDR had the ultimate solution, as do the Scandinavian countries today. Maintain a capitalistic economy, but inject just enough socialism to maintain a baseline minimum standard of living. So I already know what Nico feels about this, but I actually agree with you, Joe. This is how I think. I think what's the word? Regulated capitalism is the best system, because I do believe that unfettered capitalism, left to run amok, will be more destructive than it needs to be. I think just enough reins on it to prevent the floor from falling, to provide somewhat of a reasonable social safety net so the bottom quintile doesn't completely drop to the floor, is probably the best solution. There's certainly trade-offs to that solution, but I think overall, for a well-functioning society, I believe that that's probably the best solution. So I agree with you on that, Joe. But Nico, what's your take?
Again, it always comes down to the same thing. If that's what you want, Canada is the perfect example of what you're seeing right now. And where's our system? Systems in the whole. Our healthcare is shit. we have a housing crisis. It's in shit because we literally have open border policies. The problem is keeping the right amount of capitalism and socialism together. And you know what the common denominator is? The people in power. It always is. It's always the problem. They get greedy.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter that it's under communism, that it doesn't matter that it's under socialism, that it's under a mix of capitalism and socialism. The point of the matter is that I would rather have a capitalistic society where I have a chance to make as much money as I want, depending on the amount of time that I put into it, than being dictated by the government telling me how much taxes I need to pay. Because when I was still working for the man, I was paying at least 50% of my salary for services that I can't even use. I don't even use. So that's the thing. You have people that will take advantage of a socialist system. You will have people that will take advantage of a capitalistic system. You'll have people that will take advantage at the top of a communist system. But like you said earlier, if you look at all the systems that are out there, I'll be the first one to tell you that no one's perfect. None of them are perfect. But if the best one of the ones we have right now is capitalism, and I'd much rather live in a capitalistic society than a communist one or a socialist one. Plain and simple. Not interested in anything
100%, 100%, 1,000,000%. Chris H says there is no social credit score in China. The U.S. government passed a bill to provide $1.6 billion to finance the spread of anti-China propaganda. So it feels like we're always sitting on Chris here, and and it's good. I appreciate the robust debate, Chris. Hopefully you don't take this as like us shitting on you, because actually, you've been contributing for a while now, and I actually like you as a seems like you're a cool guy. On this, you're just wrong though, man. Like there absolutely is a social credit score system. It's not a secret. It's the Chinese government will admit it.
Those videos have been out for 6, 7 years, 8 years, maybe 10 years.
It's well established. It's a well established fact.
Talk to the journalists that made it out of China and see what they say about it. Like, I understand that you want to prone socialism, but be honest with yourself. In the same way as I will prone a capitalistic system, but I fully know that there's flaws into our system. Unlike people that normally prones socialism and communism, they never want to admit that there's massive problems with those systems, and the problem is always the people on top. Always is. It always is the greed of the people on top. I'd just rather be able to compete than having the government tell me what I can and cannot do on every single aspect of my life.
Yeah, I mean,
and let's be honest, Wikipedia is a very leftist.
Yes, yeah. The social credit system in China is a national credit. Like, there's no concept that this is controversial or in debate. Like, it is a well-established system. There's some debate about exactly what it does, but the system definitely exists. And we've heard, there's literally tens of thousands of Chinese dissidents who have left the country who discuss the system. And many of them say this is the reason why they left. It's pretty strict. Like, it uses facial recognition. I read an article about a journalist who eventually defected. He left China. And he said, like, he was dinged at 3 a.m. for crossing the street when there was no cars, but he jaywalked. He didn't wait for a signal. It was 3 a.m. There was nobody there. They read his face, dinged his social credit system. Many of the times people aren't even told why they're losing points or what they're losing points for until they go to try to fly and they're not allowed on their flight. Or they try to buy an apartment and, it turns out that your score isn't high enough to live here. It's dystopian as fuck, man. It is absolutely a real thing. But that said, I don't want to make it seem like we're shitting on you. Keep them going, Chris. But I definitely appreciate the robust debate. But that was a swing and a miss, brother. But we appreciate the comments. Yeah, we appreciate the comments. Let's see here. A lot of this is just the people conversation, the audience conversation with each other, and I love that too. All right, let's see.
That's the
Chris,
whole point.
yeah,
That's
I love
the whole
that.
point.
Love that. Chris says capitalism constrains innovation and actually is against real competition. That's why the U.S. went to war with China. Only Western nations and allies of the West are allowed to succeed in capitalism. Oh, Chris, man. I didn't read the comment fully. I was like, this will give Chris a chance to redeem
Come on,
himself.
man. Come on. Come on.
Yeah, I mean,
That's but
yeah,
he's
I
going
did-
down the same rabbit hole. I'm sorry, Chris, but that's the stuff. You need to do your work. You need to bring your
Yeah.
work, and that's not it. That's just an opinion. And,
yeah, well, that's like
wrong.
propaganda. I mean, it's not even, there's no real basis for that.
No.
Yeah. But
There's one I wanted to take because I believe I made a mistake when I said it. It was from Joe about mass shooters.
Yep. After that, I see one from Chris. That's actually a decent comment, a good comment. So I'll play that after you're done there.
Yeah, but I can't see it. There's so many comments I can't keep track. But all to say, Joe, I might have missed a word. School shootings, mass shooters in school. I'm not talking about a bunch of gangsters that kill 3 people and it's considered a mass shooting.
What did Joe push back on that they're all trans?
He was saying that it was all retarded bullshit, and those are his words.
They're not all trans for sure, but there's
in the past. No.
There's a trend.
If you heard what I said,
trend.
If you heard what I said in the past 3 to 4 years,
yeah, it's pretty recent.
Every single one have been trans and on some type of antidepressant. It's insane. It's just. But again, I'm talking about. I'm talking about school shootings. I'm not talking about what you, because right now, the marketing term of mass shooter is basically anybody that kills 3 people or more.
Yes,
it's a killing spree now.
Audrey Hale, the Nashville shooter, is obviously the one that jumps off in my mind. And I mean, she's given testosterone, right? That's not that crazy. If you take someone with mental health problems already, don't treat their mental health problems, cut their breasts off and pump them full of testosterone. It's not it's pretty easy to see the mechanism for how this could happen. I mean, I think Joe, you could probably definitely quibble with when you say all of them. I don't know if it's all of them, but there definitely is a trend. And I'll try to look up there as we get back to that. Back to the comments here. Chris H says U.S. infrastructure gets a grade of D. That's a metric to Sean O'Neill Budd's credit, where Sean was saying, "How's America's a shithole country?" And I was saying, I don't know what's the metrics. Half of China is covered in bullet trains, and they have top-notch infrastructure. So correct. That is a metric of shitholeness. I mean, I don't think it doesn't mean America is a shithole. It means that they're cheap as fuck and they are not investing properly in their infrastructure. And I certainly would agree with that. I'd also want to know grade of D, relative to what, where they, but I think anyone who's flown in LaGuardia Airport or use any major U.S. infrastructure knows that it is not good. So that's a fair comment. I think it's, still a bit of a stretch to call the United States the richest nation in the world a shithole country, but at least it's an argument, it's a decent piece of evidence. With regards to China covered in bullet trains, they have top-notch infrastructure. They do, no doubt they do, and that is because
so does Japan, and they're not communist.
And what's funny though, the reason that they have all the money to do that is not because of socialism, it's because of their capitalist side. How they've sold so many fucking consumer goods to the United States since the 1970s. They've been paid trillions of dollars for all of that work, and that is absolutely a core piece of their capitalist side. They're making goods, they're selling them on the world market, and that's the like I said, that's the capitalist side of them. That's not the socialist side. And that's the only reason they even have the money to do all those things. China was a very large rural third world country in the 1970s when Richard Nixon went and opened it up in his famous summit over in China. And since then, that rang the dinner bell for the American companies to start shipping all those well-paying manufacturing jobs to China, because you didn't have to pay people well over there. And the vast majority, probably 95% of China's wealth today, every dollar they've earned since the 70s is almost certainly directly related to that decision. And that is very much capitalistic behavior.
And the only reason that they were able to do that is by forcing companies to be owned by the government and controlling their own market. So they put so much restrictions on how much it costs, because you realize that they subsidize their own industries, right? The government will subsidize their industries because they own most of them.
Well, yeah.
They drive the price down to make sure that they can compete with any market in the world. That even if you consider producing everything in China and shipping it back to North America is going to be cheaper. So they're literally playing for the people at the top. They're using capitalism at its best, and they're using communism to control their people. So technically, the people in power in China are fucking intelligent, but it sucks for the people that are just citizens. If you're not in a position of power, China sucks.
Yes. And I think that's probably a fair assessment of how their government works. But certainly on the global stage, they are a capitalist society. But yeah, internally, domestically, definitely not. Joseph Thomas, great comment. The GOP used private prisons, and that incentivized convictions. The Democrats decided the solution was to pay the prisons at full capacity, no matter the occupancy rate. What a ridiculous example. I mean, not like this is a great example, but a great example of how ridiculous U.S. politics is. One side introduces a ridiculous, flawed, I would argue, immoral policy. I do not believe prisons should ever be for profit. I don't think any society should incentivize a large industry to put people in prison. And then the Democrats, and the other side says, oh, you know what? Instead of just getting rid of them, because we can't do that, because the for-profit prisons, they donate to the Democrats too, and that's the basic corruption at the heart of the U.S. system. They said, no, we'll just pay them as if they're full. So it's just such a ridiculous. So now you've got this industry that just builds prisons. Most of them are empty, but they're being paid as if they're full, and it's just, you couldn't ask for a better example of the dysfunction of U.S. politics.
What do you think the solution is, Joe? You're a smart guy. What do you think? And I'm not being facetious here. I'm actually being honest. What do you think the solution is? Because you have to have a prison system. You have to be harder on crime than what we see here in Canada.
No doubt.
The system should never be for profit, because obviously you're going to have people that are going to try to put more people in because they make money off of it. But what do you think is, because Joe seems to understand, at least where we can somewhat agree, is that socialism does not work by itself, that you need certain amount of capitalistic policies in place in order to kind of mix them together. And Canada's been trying to do that for decades, and we're seeing the effect of that right now. But what does it mean, right? Like, we're not sure. We don't even know as Canadians. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see, but we definitely need to stop that social bullshit and open the doors to everybody to use it. But the point is that, what do you think is the solution? Because it's a great example. The prison system is a great example, because every single country out there is going to have somewhat of a prison system.
Yeah.
Somewhat. So how do you deal with it in a way that is in your mixture of capitalism and communism/socialism?
Yeah. Chris H says there is no actual difference between Democrats and Republicans. Sometimes Democrats are more effective Republicans than Republicans. Now there's that common ground that we like to see.
Finally, Chris, I agree with you on that one.
100%, brother.
Let's agree. Let's agree that there's no more difference between the two. Yeah, it
is that uniparty. And you know, I think this little sort of the last 10 to 15 minutes of debate and whatnot with Chris, I think that kind of shows what's great about this show, because we can disagree on some things, but at the heart of it, the foundation of it, I think we all kind of recognize the same problems. And what I mean foundationally, one of the biggest problems is, and I think most people here will agree, is that there is a uniparty. Really, both sides are equally corrupt. And to go to something Joe said yesterday, I think money in politics, or unchecked money in politics, is probably one of the main drivers of this corruption.
Agreed.
All right, so let me just see, where was I?
So just to go back again to, because I wanted to check as per the question I asked Joe to see if he thinks there's a solution for the for-profit prisons in the US. And in Canada, we do not have a for-prison system.
No, we
for
don't.
money
The
prison.
for-profit. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have a for-profit, but you're looking, as per the latest numbers that I can find here, we are looking at about 0.1% of the Canadian population is incarcerated right now. And if you look at the US, you're looking at about 0.7%. So the incarceration rate is literally 7 times ish bigger in the US than it is in Canada. Just putting numbers out there. I don't know what they mean.
Well,
in Canada, it's 0.1%, because you can't go by the amount, the sheer amount of people that are in prison, because it needs to be a percentage of the population. Because if there's more people as a population, there's going to be more people in prison. That just makes sense.
Of course.
That's why I'm using percentages, right? So on a 40 million population, you're looking at 0.1%, so 0.1% in Canada. And if you look at the US, and they're about 400 million, 350, somewhere between 350 and 400 million, you're looking at 0.7%. So 6 to 7 times higher in the US than it is in Canada. But is it based on the system itself? Is it based because it's a profit? Is it mental health issue? What's the problem, right? That's that is one of those subject that is not easy to find a solution, because it is a multifaceted problem, like massive problem. Like, I don't know how you fix something like that. I really don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, like once a shitty policy is introduced in the United States, just because of the way the moneyed interest works, especially if it's a policy that's designed to benefit a moneyed or special interest group, such as the for-profit industry, it's very, 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 very hard to get rid of it once it becomes embedded. And I guess that's why the best policy is to not do these things in the first place. But let's just say you could ignore like the practicality of, again, I mean, to me, the solution is just get rid of for-profit prisons. And that doesn't mean, I'm all for being tough on crime. But just the existence of for-profit prisons injects a certain amount of just uncertainty into the entire thing that throws the entire system into question, I believe. And, you see cases like that judge who sentenced, dozens, if not hundreds of young boys to a boys' prison for crimes such as being late for school or skipping school, some of them for 6 months, 9 months, because he had a secret deal that every kid he sent to them, he would get a kickback. And that is pure evil. Some of those boys killed themselves. And that's exactly the kind of behavior that gets incentivized in a system where you have the existence of for-profit prisons. And that's why I think, and it's one of those things, man, it's so frustrating, because I don't think anyone who's not in the for-profit prison industry thinks that's a good idea. You know what I mean?
Wasn't it Kamala Harris, as when she was a prosecutor, I think, out of San Francisco, that puts a shit ton of people in prison for small weed possessions? Possessions. And this is where I'm looking at the numbers right now, and this is a good point with Joe, that the answer is have a far more libertarian society. We have millions in prison for minor non-violent crimes, simply because they are too poor to afford good representation. We simply need fewer laws. That bro, we're gonna fucking agree on that, because my heart's libertarian in nature. So I agree with you 1,000% on that one. And I agree also with the non-violent crimes, like especially like weed possession. To me, weed should be decriminalized. No questions about it. To me, all drugs out there should be decriminalized. Now, if as a drug abuser you commit crime, those are not related.
It should be an aggravating factor, I believe.
If you're a heroin addict and you keep on leaving your fucking dirty ass needles in parks, and a kid gets poked by it and catches something, you deserve to be in prison. But I think that the act of consuming drugs should be decriminalized as a whole.
I agree with you. I completely agree with you.
I'd be curious to see what the impact would be, because just like that, like I'm looking right now at the Bureau of let me bring that up here.
I actually,
So
yeah,
I don't know what
sorry,
you're playing with, but you need to stop playing with it.
Oh, can you
Like,
hear that?
Oh, of course we can. The Federal Bureau of Prison was showing statistics, and they were very high. Like they're showing right here. Let me bring that up. Like drug offenses, I can't seem to find a broken down what's nonviolent, what's violent, like within the drug possession. I probably can do a lot more research and find it, but just like that, as we're speaking, you're looking like drug offenses. It's literally 43% of inmates, 43.3% of inmates are in prison because of drug offenses. So how many of those are super are non-violent? You got caught with weed in your pocket or whatever the amount. If it's like it can't be seen as a as something that is consumption, how many of those are that? Because man, if you're in prison for weed possession, like
That's
come on.
ridiculous. Yeah.
Oh, again,
Like-
any drug possession that is meant for decriminalize it, do something that see, I like her. I really like Robin is saying Michelle Ferrari talks in the interview about giving instruction on how to do drugs in prison. I actually like her, like Michelle Ferrari. I saw a few of her posts. She used to be, I don't know if she still is. I think she used to be a conservative MP in Ontario. She's clever.
That's her. Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I like her. But again, just to go back to Joe, what Joe was saying, 43.3% of inmates in the US are in prison.
Crazy. Yeah, that's crazy.
Drug offenses. I highly doubt that there's 62,630 inmates that are drug dealers, as in part of the cartel, or that have exported or imported tons of weed and cocaine. Now we're talking about a different crime, but how many of those 62,630 are just
low level?
Guys?
Yeah.
Now we're just consumers. If you're a consumer.
Yeah, and actually that's a good point, because I feel I want to clarify what I was saying earlier. Like, I support being tough on crime. I actually think you should be a little more nuanced. I think we should be much tougher on violent crime and much softer on non-violent, personal drug offenses.
Unless they are white-collar crimes. We need to be harder on white-collar crimes.
Oh, yeah.
They might not be violent, but those guys destroy people's life by taking all their money away. That to me is almost as bad as murdering somebody.
Well,
and you're literally killing their life. You're destroying their life.
Yep, and you can even expand your definition of violence to mean severe damage to another person, and that doesn't have to be physically violent, but like that would cover what you say, white-collar crimes. But victimless crimes where there's no obvious victim and you're just, say, doing drugs or something, I think should be not criminalized at all. And that alone would probably solve much of the incarceration problem in the issue. Chris H. Wow, leftists agree with Nico on decriminalization of drugs. I think Spain, Portugal legalized drugs, buttressing that policy with other forms of support, and they greatly corrected the drug problem. Hey, there's always space for common ground here, especially on this show.
I'm about common sense. I'm just about common sense. That's all it is. It's not a left. This to me is a nonpartisan issue.
Yeah.
Look at the stats. I've seen the stats on Spain and Portugal, and literally their drug consumption has gone down because you remove the danger aspect of things. Once you make something normal, it's like, you know what, man. A lot of people that used to smoke weed and do drugs are like, oh, I'm gonna go hide somewhere. I'm gonna try. It's cool. They feel cool doing it.
Yeah. And now it's like, if your grandmother is smoking weed, it kind of takes it away from it. Not the same. Not the same.
One of the things though that I appreciate about Canada, I don't really smoke weed, like I said earlier. Like the other day, I do CBD every now and then when I'm hurting. But outside of that, I don't smoke weed like I used to when I did for decades. But I do smoke some every now and then. If it makes sense, I'll do it. God damn, the weed is so much better now in Canada. Like you're not going to your drug dealer and buying, hey, give me a gram. Like, you don't know what the fuck you were getting. You're just getting whatever the fuck he was able to get his hands on.
Yeah.
Now it's like,
now you're like,
hey, You
Go
almost have like you almost
I-
have the same thing as if you like wine.
A
Like
connoisseur,
the
sommelier.
guy's like,
Yeah. You've got a weed sommelier.
sir, try
This
this
is
weed.
yeah.
You
This is
will like it.
this is a 70%
Yeah.
indica strain,
Bro, I go in there,
30%
I'm like,
sativa.
Give me the highest amount of
THC.
CBD, the lowest amount of THC, and give me an indica because I will smoke it before I go to bed.
Yeah.
So it's like I get before it's
Oh
like
yeah,
I don't know.
You're customizing your weed.
You're getting weed from a weird dude. Next thing you know, there was a bit of cocaine in it, and now
Yeah.
you're fucking. I'm
Yeah,
not high
man.
on weed anymore.
This
So
isn't-
it was
this
the
isn't
Russian
weed.
roulette back in the days when I smoked weed. It was whatever you found.
Whatever was
Please,
in it.
hey, I might be paranoid today. Sorry, guys, I might be paranoid today, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I agree.
yeah.
I think that it needs to be decriminalized at all level. I don't even
I
care
be-
what
I
the
agree.
drug is.
I agree.
But at the same
Um,
time, I don't like the way Canada is doing it, especially not in Montreal, where you now have people going around on the taxpayers' dollars and giving paraphernalia. How do you pronounce it?
Paraphernalia.
To
Yeah.
drug addicts. That I don't
don't-
agree with at
yeah.
all. I don't think you should give them injection sites that are close to park and shit. No, absolutely not. They should still be held responsible for what they do when they're high. You shouldn't be allowed
Yes,
to leave your
yeah.
needles all over the place. The
Yep.
act of consuming drugs or being caught with, let's
Should
say,
not.
10 grams or less. I'm just shooting a number out there. Like, you're literally not reselling. It's for you. That
Mhm.
should not be a crime at all fucking levels.
Yep.
But man, I like
I
when
agree with
Chris
that.
H and I agree on something. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Joe and I agree on something. Well, man, what the fuck's going on
Nico
today?
is consistent on the concept of assault being both physical and financial.
Yeah, it
that's
is, man. I would much rather. I've been beaten down, bro. I've been in places where my nose is broken. I can't see out of one eye. I'm fucking battered. I've been broken many times in my life, and I got to tell you, financial hurt is way more painful than physical pain.
Yeah. Maybe
It
instead of
takes
violence.
way longer to rebuild from losing everything.
Yeah.
Then my body will heal. My mind is strong. My body will heal. But
Exactly,
goddamn,
right.
financial, that
That's
means you
bad.
can't support your family anymore. You might go bankrupt. Your family's in the street. Oh, no.
Yeah. I think maybe instead of violence, we just frame it damage or victims or something, right? Which does encompass other things like that. Financial damage, you
Yeah.
could call that violence. Robin, with a great comment here, she says we need to bring back implementing complementing systems such as prison, rehab, and assimilate back to society programs, actual rehab facilities that are pro-healing. Not necessarily safe supply chains. Yeah, that's a good point too. As opposed to the model where you just throw people in prison and then throw them out. Have some sort of a middle ground, right? I agree with that.
We should not only that, but I can tell you as somebody that used to be a drug addict and an alcoholic, I can tell you that I was able to quit on pure strength, like pure mental strength, but I'm not the average individual. The average individual needs help. And as someone that has dabbled with psychedelics for decades now, I can tell you that there are substances out there like ayahuasca, like psilocybin, like there's one that comes out of Africa, Aborigine. I cannot remember
Haven't
how you
heard of that one.
pronounce it. It's something that is starting to get tested right now, because if you look at psilocybin, you look at DMT, like Dr. Rick Strassman has been testing with this since the 90s. All the literature is out there. I have many of his books. And you want to know how useful DMT can be, like ayahuasca, psilocybin, LSD. It's been the research is there. They're capable of curing PTSD within 1 or 2 sessions of psilocybin. Literally, the pill's not even $5 to produce. And 2 sessions, PTSD is cured within
Crazy,
2
eh?
fucking. It's mostly 1 session, but some is 2. They accept cancer. They accept terminal cancer. They've been able to heal soldiers from PTSD, because if you understand how the brain works, you have your fight or flight response, and this is where your PTSD comes from. As soon as you relive an episode of PTSD, your body goes into fight or flight. You're not thinking anymore. It's lizard brain. You're not coherent anymore. You're just reliving the action. Psilocybin allows you to detach from the experience itself and live the experience almost as a third party. If you've done psilocybin, if you've done ayahuasca or any type of DMT, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But the point is that this should be added. Drugs, substances, natural substances like ayahuasca, psilocybin should not be seen as drugs that are not useful, because in the US they are rated as drug. I can't remember what the term is, but they're the type of substance that is not only illegal, but it's illegal because it has no medicinal value yet.
Yeah. I don't
If
agree
you
with
talk this is one of my rabbit holes. So Joe Stradamus seems to be Dr. Leary fucked it all up. It's because of Dr. Leary that the US is in the shit, because he started fucking doing LSD with his with his students. So Dr. Leary had the great idea, but he fucked it all up for the rest of us. Terrence McKenna, goddamn, that is a guy that is fucking out there. I have a few of his books. That guy is
he out there?
He's dead. Terrence McKenna's been dead for years, but his brother, I can't remember what his name is, has been on Joe Rogan's podcast a few times. And he talks about his brother. He talks about the usefulness. He talks about, do you know a guy by the name, if you want to have, there was a podcast on Joe Rogan with Paul Stamets. I don't know if you know who Paul Stamets is. I have a few of his books. The guy had, he's a mushroom producer. I'm not talking like psilocybin or magic mushroom, just mushroom like lion manes, for example. There's a lot of, because if you understand, do you know that the oldest organism on earth is mushrooms?
Like mushroom, yeah.
So mushroom is just the fruit, but the entity that produces the mushroom is everywhere. If you dig in the ground, it's everywhere, and you have miles of it. It interconnects trees together. It exchanges nutrients. It's fucked when you start looking into mushroom. But Paul Stamets has a great story where he was just a teenager with a massive speech impediment, and one day he heard, and I think it was through one of Dr. Leary's books, that he learned that he could use magic mushroom to open his mind. And he did not. That's before they knew about dosage. He explains on the Joe Rogan podcast, it's awesome, that he ate a full fucking Ziploc of magic mushroom, which that's insane. Like, you do a 5 to 7 gram, they call that a heroic dose, because it will take you to another fucking country.
Well, I took 2 a couple weeks ago, last time I took mushrooms, and I was flying, man.
See, when I do it, it's 5 to 7 grams. No, bro. It's like I lock the door. I'm alone. I cannot see people right now.
Yeah.
But all to say that Paul Stamets ate a Ziploc bag because it won't kill you. And then he starts talking that he was in nature, and then it started to rain, and there was a thunderstorm. He went up the tree, and he's stuck hugging a tree high on a Ziploc bag of mushrooms.
Yeah, you can't be out in the real world if you're doing that.
And he asked himself, he's like, why do you stutter? And then when the trip was done, the stutter was gone, and he's been on that path of mushroom ever since. He healed his mother's cancer with natural mushrooms. Either way, if you want to hear about magic mushrooms as a whole, Paul Stamets on Joe Rogan's podcast, mind blowing.
Well, one of the main things it does is at least temporarily a state of ego death. It completely kills your ego, and so if you can, if that's one of the issues, that's what sort of it can allow you to step outside yourself a little bit, and that's, you can have some profound insights as well, especially if that's what's sort of ailing you. But guys, we're gonna put a pin in there.
But just to give you an example, like if you want to talk DMT, from
DMT fascinates me and scares me at the same time.
But everything is based. LSD technically is not natural; it's done in a lab. But if you look at psilocybin, is DMT based. Every single plant in the universe, on the planet, has a certain amount of DMT. Your body produces
even the human body,
Yes, and this is one of the only substances that will go through the brain-blood barrier. Like your brain wants DMT, and people will argue that your pineal gland produces DMT naturally. That's why it wants it. But all I was going to say is, these are all books, like literally from here to here, they're all books on DMT. I'm just such a fan. I love the subject. It's just awesome.
Well, one of the things that really fascinates me is how almost universally everyone who goes on a trip says they have some sort of spiritual experience. It's almost always related to God or some whatever their version is. Find that it's called the God molecule for a reason. The spirit molecule. That's what it is.
If you want to read a book that will blow your mind, this is the first book by Dr. Rick Strassman, DMT, the Spirit Molecule. This fucking brilliant. This changed my reading that book. Blew my mate. Oh yeah. It's just that he's a doctor, like he's a psychologist that actually gave that to people and analyzed the result. And he was at not Berkeley, he was at I can't remember the university, but they were back in the 90s. He was the only one that still had a license from the federal government to be testing on DMT, because it's illegal to test now. I don't know what they are. I think there are certain places now that are able to start redoing it again. But all to say, man, I wish they would integrate more of Abergaine. Abergaine, I think, is the substance. I've never done Abergaine, but it's something that is becoming ibogaine, IBOGAINE. Ibogaine is something that they're using right now in order to treat addictions. It is especially used to treat drug or alcoholism. It's literally meant for that, and it's natural. Yeah, it's a drug. I've never played with. That's not a substance that I know of. Like, I've never used it, but I've only heard incredible things about ibogaine.
That's super interesting.
So here's the ibogaine has been shown to reduce cocaine and morphine self-administration in labs, animal, and it had to attenuate alcohol intake by alcohol preferred rats. The compound also reduces the reward effect of nicotine in animals. In addition, the compound reduces craving in humans. So I think it must be playing with your reward center of your brain, as in, the substance, like when you play with your phone, for example, you jump on it, you do have a release of hormones in your body that is extremely addictive. So that I believe that's what ibogaine plays. Like, it kind of disassociate the hormones to be produced, so you're not rewarding yourself by consuming alcohol and drugs. It's very, very cool. Very cool.
Interesting.
Very cool.
Very interesting.
Because that's one of my massive
I gotta have to cut you off before we get down that rabbit hole. We'll end on this comment from Joe. Nobody comes back from a trip. We just adapt to the new reality. And that's a great comment. I think that's exactly how it feels to me.
Joe and I have done enough that I understand. I fully fucking understand what you're saying. You're not the same person that went and comes back.
No, that's right. That's right. All right, guys. We're going to put a pin in there for now. Thank you for being here with us this afternoon. Another great show. Lots of spirited debate, which, of course, we love. Guys, thank you for being here today. You could have been anywhere in the world, and you chose to be here with us for the last 2 hours, and we appreciate that. It is it Thursday already? Yeah,
brother.
Okay, shit. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, Chris says peace. Peace to you too, sir. I know there's always lots of disagreement here, Chris, but we really do appreciate your continued comments, and we love them all, especially I really like when we can find the common ground at the very end of the show, like we did. So hopefully we'll see you guys again. Tomorrow is a Friday show, so come back tomorrow, same time as always, Friday at noon. And we will catch you tomorrow. Catch you on the flip side.